What's going on, everybody? I just realized I didn't finish putting the show together, so I'm not gonna do a lifestyle or a dark Jon today. It's been a kind of annoying day getting stuff together, and I shaved and I have massive razor burn, so forgive me. Kind of hating life, particularly at this moment. Not, it's not bad. It's not terrible, but yeah, I'm here. I'm alive. I've got some stuff to talk about today. Shoot, what do I have to talk about today? Well, before we get started, you know the drill. This thing up here, wilddinosaur.com. It's my website. It's where I have all kinds of stuff. I have a merch store there where you can get cool designs, like my t-shirt. I have these baseball style tees that I really like, available in the store. So yeah, check out. Oh yeah, and as per usual, I borrowed Linda from sales. I borrowed her tote bag. She got that from wilddinosaur.com. It's a nice canvas bag. Has nice straps for it, and you can change the color if you want. There's red, yellow, and black. Options for your tote bags. So check out the design. See what looks cool. Man, this light's super hot. This is as low as it goes. My forehead is glossy because I took a shower earlier. And earlier, like 45 minutes ago, because I needed to. And yeah, I'm still shiny from post shower. We had some things. Oh yeah, the first thing I was gonna talk about. I'm gonna read an article that Ryan sent from the Hollywood Reporter, but I wanted to start off by talking about how yesterday I was talking about how I use the Adobe suite, and some of the stuff's just not that it's not worth it, it's just too much. There's too much stuff to use in the Adobe suite, and that's a good problem, I guess, but I kind of am interested in animation. I have been for a while. I don't really want to necessarily become an animator, but I would like to know some of the tools. And so I started looking into Adobe Animate, or Animator, I think is, I don't know. There's Character Animator and then Animate, I believe. Yeah, and I've messed around with Character Animator a little bit. I guess Animate or Animator, whatever it's called. I'm gonna double check that real quick. Yeah, Adobe Animate. I guess that used to be Flash. That's what it evolved into. Was Adobe Animate, and I'm kind of interested in it, but I also don't really want to. I don't want to have to learn another software right now. Not that it's difficult, but I just don't really want to put in the time to learn a new art form when I have so many other things I need to take care of. Although there's so many animations that I would love to make or like have made by other animators. So, sometimes I just cruise through Instagram or Reddit, and check out the things that people are animating. That's what I use my social for mostly. Is I don't have Twitter or anything like that. I'm not trying to get in on a ton of social conversations. But I've tried to curate my feeds as much as possible to things that I'd like to see instead of things that they want me to see. I don't really care about Alex Jones having to pay a bunch of money to people who he should have been paying, or whatever. I don't care so much about that. But what I like is like there's an Adobe Reddit page where people will post up things that they've made, and they're like, hey, can you give me some like critiques here or there, or what do you guys think about this, that, or the other? And I really enjoy seeing some of the stuff that people make with various programs. It's one of those things where, like, if I was like 20 years younger, I might have started doing animation a little bit more, but yeah, it's just not something that I'm totally doing right now. But Ryan sent me this article earlier, and forgive me, I didn't really get a chance to look at it because today was super busy for me. I'd run a bunch of errands, and then it looks like I'm making a trip to the East Coast at the end of the month. So I had to deal with that and getting things together, trying to put the show together. I had planned on trying to watch Prey, the new Predator prequel movie, on Hulu. It came out last night at midnight, and I was gonna stay up and watch it, but I passed out really early for some reason. Been sleeping weird, so yeah, I passed out, and I've done this twice now. 2 nights in a row. Started watching some of my Game of Thrones, the catch up to Game of Thrones that I've been doing, and I think I passed out season 6 episode 2 the night before, and then woke up and it was on episode 8, and so I went back, rewatched some of that, and I think I passed out at the beginning of episode 3. And then woke up again, and it was like episode 6 on or something like that. So I turned that off last night, and then went to bed, and then woke up and got on my travel arrangements. So I didn't get a chance to watch Prey yet. I'll do that probably tonight. There's one of 3 things I would like to do tonight. Watch Prey. Finish one of the bosses in Horizon Forbidden West. I've been kind of enjoying that game. I like it for the most part, but the controlling is, I don't know, a little bit weird. They want you to play in a specific way, and I think one of the things I like about open world games is that usually you kind of have your choice of figuring out how to do something, and I don't know. It's a beautiful looking game with a cool story, but yeah, just I don't like having to do things the exact way the game wants you to. I want to be able to do my own thing. Breath of the Wild does that the best, for me. It's one of the better ones. And then either Prey or Game of Thrones. I'll probably watch Prey though, just because I've been meaning to check that out. But so in regards to the animation stuff that I was looking at, Ryan sent me this article earlier from the Hollywood Reporter, and I'm gonna read the whole thing just because I didn't really get a chance to look at it, but I thought it was interesting in the premise, and I wanted to talk about it. And it says DreamWorks Animation to release Renderer as open source software. Its proprietary Moonray software has been used in movies including The Bad Guys and an upcoming Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. That's the title. That's the title of the article. This isn't very long. It's 3 paragraphs. So I'll just read it real quick. With annual CG confab SIGGRAPH slated to start Monday in Vancouver, DreamWorks Animation announced that it announced its intent to release its wow, I can't say words sometimes. Proprietary renderer Moonray as open source software later this year. Moonray has been used on featured films such as How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, The Croods: A New Age, The Bad Guys, and the upcoming Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. We are thrilled to share with the industry over 10 years of innovation and development on Moonray, vectorized, threaded, parallel, and distributed code base, said Andrew Pierce, DWA's VP of Global Technology. The appetite for rendering at scale grows each year, and Moonray is set to meet that need. We expect to see codebase grow strong within the community involvement as DreamWorks continues to demonstrate our commitment to open source. Moonray uses DreamWorks distributed computation framework, ERAS, also to be included in the open source code base. So I guess I'm still a little bit not sure what this means. It's a renderer. So this is a little out of my realm of knowledge because, like I said previously, I'm not super familiar with animation stuff so much. I've like I said, I've only jumped into animation in smaller capacities. I've done some stop motion, and I did most of that in Premiere. And I've done some stuff in Photoshop too, because you can pull up a timeline in Photoshop and make little GIFs and things like that. And Character Animator I've messed around with. So I don't know animation on a larger scale. So let's see. I'm going to pull up something. And I don't know if best 3D rendering stuff. So I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can who knows might be able to say something either in the comments or in the chat. Is this something that is like a in Adobe there's a program called Media Encoder that I use sometimes to export videos or whatever, and it's good to use because it can be faster to render a video out from like Premiere or After Effects. It sometimes can be faster than the software itself, like After Effects or Premiere. And there's some other stuff you can do with Media Encoder that's really helpful. Is this something like that where it's like a final process render for animation? I'm curious about that, because if that is, that might be really helpful to the industry as a whole, because there is an issue with computer graphics in Hollywood. The CG industry, there seem to be overworked. I know Marvel particularly has a problem because they have so much content, both TV and with movies, that I know that there's issues with the back end of graphics. So this is something I'm not super duper knowledgeable. I know there's issues that exist, but I'm just not that savvy when it comes to using some of the more industry standard ways to go about some of this stuff. I mean, when I look up basic 3D rendering softwares, there's Blender, Maya, Cinema 4D, stuff like that. So is it gonna be like that, where it's an open source like creative tool where people can make their own Crudes characters or Ice Age characters or something like that? I don't know. That doesn't really it doesn't really make sense to me, but that's just because I'm dumb, as I always say. I haven't done extensive research. What's up, Ryan? No worries. I sent out real quick. I sent out the email. Was that helpful today at all? I know it was a little bit late. Sorry, it was like a minute or two late. I think I sent it at like 5:01 or something. Yeah, and it's a mass email that goes out. I've had a couple of people be like, "Oh, text me," and I'm like, I can't really just text everybody right before the show goes. I need to be able to do mass notifications, which YouTube's supposed to take care of. They're constantly changing things around. First, it was like, as long as you're subscribed to a channel, you'd get the notifications that they were live or a new video was out or whatever. And then they like changed some stuff, and then there's like the bell you have to hit. I'll click that bell for notifications. And then it's not a game I've played very, very much, but I am enough of a part of the YouTube community. I've been a consumer of the YouTube community for a long enough time to know that other people have been having these problems for a while. Ryan says, back-end application, as you said, special features like hair, liquid, and light would work with Cinema 4D or Blender. Yeah, okay. Moonray, that is. Yeah. I gotcha. That's cool. I think the idea of open source production like this is really helpful for people to just... I mean, there's a ton of creative people out there, and being able to have the access to create without having to worry. I mean, I was bitching yesterday about the fact that the whole Adobe suite is like $500 for the year. You have to pay that every year if you want the whole suite. I don't know, there's discounts for businesses and students particularly, but I haven't been able to get those discounts applied to myself for whatever reason. But yeah. So Moonray is interesting. This is a whole interesting thing about like new technology and the accessibility in today's world, really. So I think that's cool, but I had a thought. There's kind of a slow news day. There's a couple of things I'll talk about at the end, and like I've mentioned basically since the start of Jon Does, since episode 1. I keep bringing up Mars Volta, and I talked about him a little bit yesterday. Well, the track finally dropped publicly, and I'll talk about that after the commercial break. What was it? So kind of a thought yesterday about after I was talking about the trajectory I'm going down as a director, and I'm constantly always thinking about this, but what kind of director do I want to be? What kind of stories am I trying to tell? And I don't think I'm very straightforward as a storyteller. I'm honing skills and doing my best to get my visions made, I guess. But I've enjoyed content. I've enjoyed media and entertainment my whole life. some of my earliest memories are renting the Goonies and Willy Wonka and just watching those over and over and over. And that's the kind of content I tend to enjoy. I mentioned it before, escapism is my bag. I've worked in news media for a really long time, and especially as I've like refound my love for films, I just tend to lean towards escapism because I literally was editing footage of dead people from Hurricane Katrina when I worked at in Chico. Um, I've seen unedited, censored videos of the worst of humanity, and I had to edit that stuff. Editor wasn't my main role, but I did it enough and had seen enough content. And actually, I have a quick story that I thought was important. I won't name the people, but I was working in Sacramento, and I was working for Telemundo, and the news department in Telemundo was very new. I started at that station before there was a news department. There was a set and everything, but it wasn't getting used. Basically, we had 2.5 minute, or were they 2 minute, 2 to 2.5 minute news breaks that aired during the commercial break, and it was something that I shot. We had a girl come in, or we had a couple of hosts, I guess. They were reporters, but they were so short it's hard to say they hosted a show or anything at that particular moment. But there was a couple of women that came in and did some news reports, and I would edit they would stand in front of a monitor, and I would have edited the graphics for the monitor, and then I shot the whole thing, edited it real quick, and then threw it into our system so it'd run the next morning. We shot them at night, so but the news department ended up coming up later, and when the news department was together, there was not everybody knows this, but news anchors nowadays they're called MMJs, multimedia journalists, and stations like to hire people who know journalism but also can do a fair bit of managing a camera, and it's a good way to cut costs. In news media, it can be a really unsafe environment for reporters because, if you're sending a reporter out to a news story by themselves, it could potentially be a bad scenario for the reporter. And I have heard plenty of horror stories about anchors being assaulted or even murdered while they're out doing a live report and things like that. And so when I was working at Telemundo, there was a situation happening in Sacramento revolving around race. There was I think he was he was a younger man who was shot in his grandmother's backyard, I believe was the whole scenario, and by police. They were suspected him of, I think, breaking and entering or something, but it was his grandma's property. They shot and killed him, and then there was a bunch of protests that happened in Sacramento during that time, and we had sent one reporter out to the Capitol during the protest. Luckily, one of our other reporters, who was a male, was out there with her, and he acted as her camera person that day. You know what? Actually, I think no, he was there. Yeah, he was there. And a whole situation happened that ended up not on air, where basically people from the protest, and I'm not saying this was the protesters, but one or two people who were kind of in charge of the protests or involved with the family. They had started to harass the reporter, claiming that they don't care, and I get people's frustration with media for sure. I'm not really here to defend decisions, but I mean, we're talking about Telemundo. We're talking about a news organization that covered heavily issues about immigration and how certain policies in the United States were not helpful for. I mean, we're not talking about like pro-American government news necessarily. We're talking about like Latino communities being impacted by various things. We talked about world news, really, but we were a local station, so we had a lot of local stuff too, and this was a big deal happening in Sacramento. And the reporter came back luckily unharmed, but she showed us footage of these people harassing and pushing and basically kind of saying things like, you're not helpful, and it's like, we're not the news channel you think we are. We're literally talking about how like immigrants are being left to die at the border. And even in that footage, the reporter, there was a police officer nearby. She asked for help. They didn't do much, so sorry, this is a longer story than I intended. It's an important one, and it's one of the many that informed my positions around media and its place in our society, I guess, and how it is and how things are kind of going off the rails. I can do a full episode just based on my opinions on news media and things like that, and it's not all good and it's not all bad either. But the point of this was to talk about how I've spent enough time looking at the shitty parts of humanity, and I don't really want to make movies or my own content that is a reflection of that. Well, that's hard to say. I mean, you could talk about Star Wars has is part World War II, part Vietnam. Game of Thrones is the War of the Roses. The things that happen in reality. I'm not opposed to that. I'm just not trying to make like a biography on like the whole Trump presidency or anything like that. There is a documentary. A friend of mine has been writing or working on a book about an important topic that's really, really interesting. I'm not going to mention anything about it because I want him to finish it, but I also want to work on it too. Like, I want him to make this book, and I want to help him make a documentary about it because I think it's important. So there are things that I will talk about, but I'm not trying to relive like the day-to-day. This political figure tweeted this, or this political figure made us a YouTube video. Like, I don't care. Policy is not dictated around what somebody tweets. That is it. And my hope for, I don't care if you're liberal or like Democrat or Republican, like, that's one thing we all have to stop doing, is giving a shit about a celebrity or a politician tweeting something. Like, I get there's underlying tones, but like, when we focus on that particular thing, you're missing everything else. And we did that, during the Trump presidency. Oh, well, he tweeted this. Yeah, he tweeted that. but he was also doing some other stuff that you weren't paying attention to because you were too busy talking about Kofefe for like a month. That's the kind of shit that I think we need to get away from. Anyways, that's my high horse rant. I would love for people to let me know if they want to hear more about my perspective on news and stuff like that. I really could talk for a long time about it, I think. I've already gone for 35 minutes, and I didn't realize I was going to do that. I thought the first half was going to be super short, and I'd have a longer back end, but I don't. But I'm going to run a quick break. I'll just run the 2 Wild Dinosaur ads. Actually, I'm just going to do the one long ad today. The 140-second ad, which is the one with Linda from Sales, which is the best ad, because Linda's the best. I've even gotten messages from her boss saying that, her monthly quota's up, numbers are up, because people are such a big fan of Linda that she gets the high praise at her job. So I'm just saying, go to wilddinosaur.com and get one of those tote bags that blessed by Linda. All right, commercial break. I'll see you in a minute.
I'm Richard from Richard's Pet Wedding Facilities, and I give these stickers away at every pet wedding. The kids love them too. This bag from, what's his name? Wild Dinosaur? Weren't they all wild? What an oxymoron. Anyways, I like to put my special things in this bag. Plus, I'm pretty sure this is my spirit animal.
Life gave me lemons, so I sold them for this sweet baseball tee. And I have a sweet baseball tee on too. It's a different one from Dark John, because Dark John and me, Jon Does, we're clearly different people. I bought my shirt based on his recommendation. Sorry, I had that graphic up. Guess what we're talking about? I'll just pop that up. I'll start with this topic because I've talked about them for a long time now, and you'll hear me talk about more when the record comes out and after I go see them in October. But Mars Volta put out their 3rd single from their new record, which I think I heard that's what it's called. It's a self-titled record, just Mars Volta, which is nice. Let's see. I'm gonna read this little article from Spin magazine. It's also real short, so we'll get into it and we'll talk about what's going on here. Mars Volta comeback continues to roll along. The group's first album in 10 years, a 14-track self-titled affair, will arrive September 16th. That's 2 days before my birthday. And the 3rd pre-release track from it, Vigil, is out now. The accompanying black and white video was directed by group member Omar Rodriguez Lopez, who has directed a bunch of stuff. He's directed some of their other music videos and some short films like Sentimental Engine Slayer, which I watched one handful of years ago, which was pretty good. Like prior singles Blacklight Shine and Graveyard Love, Vigil doesn't have much in common with the frenetic and expansive heavier rock. Sometimes I pause to make sure I read a word correctly. Frenetic, that was the word. Just didn't want to mess that up. Anywho, with frenetic and expansive heavy rock vibes of the Mars Volta classic era sound. Indeed, the new album shakes loose some of the band's long-standing shibboleths. What is that word? I've never seen that before. With only 2 tracks lasting longer than 4 minutes and the dizzying, abrasive prog stylings of their earlier album absent, according to a statement. Wait, what? It is pre-order for the record. I'm not even going to go into the track listing because I'm not going to be able to pronounce half of them, which is fine. I've always been that way. I don't know how to read. But yeah, there's 14 tracks that's coming out. I'm excited for it. Uh, as previously reported, the Mars Volta returns to the road September 23rd in Dallas. Yeah, and I'm going to see them in one of their LA shows. They originally had 2 nights, but sold so many. They sold out super quick, so they added a 3rd night to the Palladium. I will be in attendance at one of those 3 shows. And I'm excited for that because I haven't seen... that's not true. I was about to say I haven't seen a good concert in a while, and I saw Disclosure and King Gizzard a week apart at this, not the same venue, same place. Saw them in Santa Barbara in April, so that wasn't very long ago. But I'm excited for a good concert. As much as I love music, I don't have the... I know so many people that are like, I've been to like 400 concerts, and I'm like, I don't really care about the number of concerts. I just want to go to see certain shows I think would be good. And that's not, sometimes older John, or younger John, I guess I would say, was always broke. So, like one concert a year maybe, unless it was a small, like $5-10 show or something like that locally. It can, especially when I was living in Chico, it was not easy to get around. Sometimes there was good shows in Sacramento, and sometimes there was good shows in like the San Francisco Bay Area. And those are 3-4 hour drives, or 2 to 3 hours, depending on what time of day you leave. Highway 99 can be brutal. It can be real bad. It's like 2-lane highway. It goes from Sacramento to Chico. And I've seen a handful of concerts in Sacramento and the Bay Area, just because those were the best places. Actually, so when I was living in Chico, I think the biggest concert I went to go see in Chico, and this was actually this was really awesome. We saw I saw Queens of the Stone Age in Chico. They were doing a college tour, which was cool because I hadn't seen a lot of other bands doing college tours in Chico at the time. The theaters in Chico usually brought in bands or people like, who was there all the time? Both Ventura Theater and the theater in Chico used to get like was it like Bone Thugs like 4 times a year, or who was it that always came through Chico like at least 3 or 4 times a year? It was one of those more hip hop acts. I'm trying to forget who, or I'm trying to remember who it was. I'm trying to forget. No, I forgot who it was. It's like dang, I can't remember who it was. E40 maybe. But it had lineups like that, and then of course there would be like the local blues and bluegrass bands or reggae bands that came into town. There's a band called Floater from the area. I think they're from the area. I'd seen a couple of times in Chico, but Queens of the Stone Age was the biggest concert I'd gone to. Dang, I gotta deal with this like tilt problem on the camera. It does this weird thing where Canon cameras usually they don't shut down, but they like power down the display while I'm recording. But it didn't turn off the camera, obviously. But every time it does that, it like shifts a little bit, and I'm not sure why it shifts. So I look like I'm sinking half the time. But also, I put some new lights up over here behind the guitars. When I do more, I mean, it's super light out still, but if I do later shows, or time change starts happening again, this will look a little better. I didn't change the color scheme on this. There we go. I have there's these lights and this other light that I have. It's like a universe thing, just like some dots and some like moving light stuff I got from Target for like $20. They're cool. One of them's battery powered. That one's battery powered, and the one over here just plugs into my USB. Sorry, I've been going off on stuff. So Mars Volta put out their third single for their new record today. I heard the song a couple of days ago. I told you the story yesterday of going out to try to find this scavenger hunt thing for them. And I didn't complete the mission because while I was there, somebody had posted the track on Reddit. So yeah, I just listened to the track then and bounced. But there was a conversation on Reddit that people were having. It's always interesting to hear how people take Mars Volta stuff, because I feel like King Gizzard has had a little bit more freedom with this kind of thing, where they put out one or two records that are one style, and they're really good at that style. But then the audience expects that every time. And Mars Volta put out two great prog records. Their EP were really good when they came out, and I think everybody expected to just continually get that continually. And I wouldn't have minded it so much, but I really appreciate the fact that Mars Volta is a band that kind of changes sound every record. And even from track to track sometimes. Nocturnicate, if you guys caught that Mars Volta, my ranking of it, Nocturnicate, most people didn't really like, and that's my second or third favorite record from them. But this new track, Vigil, it's hard to say I've heard anything like this from them before. But it has elements of a lot of stuff I've heard from them before. It's a bit smooth. It's probably the most pop, attainable pop song there is. None of these tracks have been long. They're 3 minutes, I think, all of them. And it had, I think I caught on a while ago that with their music, if I don't like it right away, listen to it 2 or 3 more times, and I love it usually. And that was a similar effect with this song. It definitely is something that I wasn't sure of. Like, this doesn't really sound like something I'm familiar with when it comes to their catalog, even though it's there. They've got elements of all of that there. So yeah, I like it, and I'm really looking forward to the record coming out, because I think some of these songs that feel like they're just like 3.5 minute pop tracks, and I'm not gonna complain if they don't do this, but it also feels like once the record comes out, there might be longer parts of the song that have been cut out, intros, outros, interludes, things like that. So I'm curious to see how the record's going to come together. Yeah, I'm really excited for that. So I'm going to take this graphic down because I'm going to talk about the last thing for the episode, which is 2 other singles. One of them has been out for a couple weeks and I didn't catch it, but another one came out. And again, sorry, I just didn't get a chance to add the graphic for this before the show started, which should be a simple thing. But I didn't want to push the show another 5 minutes or anything like that. So, but that is Panda Bear from Animal Collective has been putting out a couple of singles, and I guess he's got a record coming out. And this was not a person I'm familiar with, even though I know they've worked together and I've definitely heard some of their work before. But it's Panda Bear and Sonic Boom, and I'm not familiar too much with Sonic Boom, other than the fact that they co-produced some of Panda Bear's other stuff, I think. Well, there's these 2 tracks. Which one was the one that I liked the most? It was I think it was this one. Yeah, so the first one that came out a couple of weeks ago came out July 13th, is what YouTube says here. It's called Go On, and yeah, I almost called it Go On official video. It's listed as the official video because, you know, that happens. This one's great. It's sounds a lot like Panda Bear stuff. Very, very poppy. Sorry, I'm not trying to turn that up too much, but I got it kind of playing through my headphones over here. And yeah, it's a great track. And there's really cool animations for the videos too, just like trippy animation. This one is like a pinball going through a machine. Yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of like kaleidoscopy visuals and stuff like that. And it feels like other Panda Bear stuff I've heard in the past. Look, it's starting to get a little bit darker, and those lights look pretty good over there. Let's see. There we go. You can see the moving lights behind me over here. Yeah, it's the other one I have. $20, Target. Hell yeah. Sorry, I gotta turn the music off. I don't want to get claimed or anything, even though it was low and I was talking over it. But whatever. You never know. You never know what. Recommend. Mark says he was gonna recommend Stone Rebel. I don't know what that is. I'm looking it up right now. Oh, okay. They're from France. Ooh, okay, you got my attention. It's like psychedelic stoner rock, space rock from France. I'm fully in, Mark. Let's go. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm gonna listen to that, and I might even say some. I'm gonna write this down so I don't forget. On my what to watch, what to listen to. Stone Rebel. Yeah, all right. That's totally right up my alley sounding. So I'll check that out and I'll give it a listen. You got it. Enjoy, and we'll look for that Jon Does rating. Yeah, did you see yesterday? I've made the graphic for my rating system. I don't know if you caught that or not, but I'll just throw this up here again because I'm kind of proud of this. My rating system is called the Smelly Pit rating system, and it's 1 to 5 smelly pits. So if the album sucks, it'll get one and a, that's a 1.5 or half. That's a full 1. That's 1.5 right there. If it's great, it gets 5 smelly pits. So that's my rating system. I'm real happy with that. So yeah, I'll have to listen to some. Do you have any? Is there a specific record that they've done that you recommend? I'm gonna pull up their discography real quick and look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 7 records here. That's great. Oh wait, no, 19. They have 19 records. Or are these all singles? Some of them look like they might be singles. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is the one that maybe. Okay, Space Indigo. I'm gonna write that down. Cool. I will check that out this weekend. Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. I always like to hear new music, especially stuff that people think I would enjoy. So yeah, there's that Panda Bear, that first one, Go On, which I really like. I really like that track. But the one that they put out 2 days ago, the Panda Bear Sonic Boom track that came out 2 days ago is called Edge of the Edge. And I think this is my favorite track so far. It has a very like Buddy Holly vibe to it. You know, stuff of that nature, of that kind of tonal stuff. Yeah, sorry, I got it going on through my headphones over here. I'm gonna listen to this track when I get off the show here shortly, but because it's really good. And yeah, the video is like a bunch of people in or a couple people in like I don't want to call them green man suits because they're not green, but you know what I'm talking about, like the tight spandex suit that you'd use to like green screen a person. They're red instead of green, and they're wearing wigs and masks and stuff, and then like workout clothes over, and it's all like jump roping. It's a really good video. Yeah, I was kind of struggling to figure out what I wanted to talk about today, which apparently I didn't have a problem that first half. I would love to talk about some of my production experience again for a while, or like my experience working in news. Actually, Mark, I'm curious about your foray into that, because that wasn't your thing so much, right? I think you were not necessarily looking to get into TV so much when you got hired at Telemundo. But I'm curious about your experience during that, during your time there. You know, I left at a certain point, and you stuck around for a while, and that's when the station changed a lot. I think, was it Universal bought NBC Universal bought all their affiliates back. So yeah, I know you're doing something new now, which is good, but it'd be cool to have a conversation about that one of these days. But yeah, the second Panda Bear Sonic Boom track is called Edge of the Edge. And whoops. I have two computers, or I have my laptop and then I have my keyboard for this other computer in front of me, and I was trying to type something on the laptop that I was looking at the wrong computer. Anyways, yeah, check out this Panda Bear Edge of the Edge video. I think it's really great. It's very like Buddy Holly is the best way I can put it. It was okay until it went corporate. I'm sure. We can talk about this off air later if you want, but I remember the conversation was happening before I left, that they were going to be buying out their affiliates, and I considered staying for a little bit just so I could be an NBC employee. But I also didn't think that raises were going to happen at all, and that was one of the reasons I needed to leave, is because I was doing two departments of work and getting paid pennies, and my rent went up twice in that year. And I just couldn't afford to keep doing it. So I had to do something. But I did have a good time at that job, just because for a company that didn't know what they were doing, there wasn't a lot of people in management or around when I needed to be there. And so, I mean, I'm live streaming now, but the beginning phases of that I started doing at Telemundo. My first things that I did there for social media for myself was that I was talking about earlier in the show how the reporters before the newscast, before there was even a full news department there was one or two women that would do reports for like 2 minutes, and I shot and edited those and then put them into the system so they'd run the next morning for during commercial breaks. And once I was done with that, like I was done by like 9 and I was still there till like 11. And so I started like, I started coming up with ideas for, I think the first thing I ever did was the Captain America Winter Soldier trailer reaction. I think that was the first thing that I did there. And so not only did I meet cool people, like I'm glad Mark's here. You know, he worked there, and there's some other great people that I met through Telemundo, but because of the kind of job it was, I was definitely going to get my I was definitely going to use my downtime to like mess around at that TV station. And I did. I learned how to green screen. I learned how to do a lot of stuff. Most of my practice and editing came from there because I had the time to. One of the things that I would do that was really helpful. Oh yeah, the worm. Yeah. I should throw that in one of my commercial breaks for sure. That's classic video. Yeah, I shot that worm video at the Telemundo station. Look at Sweaty Pits. It just doesn't stop. It just comes natural. I took a shower like 45 minutes before I started doing the show too. But yeah, one of the things that I would do to help myself get creative juices flowing again when I had like downtime was I would just come up with a random idea. Any thought that came into my head that was like a silly concept, I would just start photoshopping it. I would, even if it turned out like garbage, I still tried to make it. And Telemundo really offered me that opportunity. And I say Telemundo, it was run by a company that I'm not going to name because I hope they're not around anymore, because I have nothing but ill will towards the people in charge there. They didn't know what they were doing. They toyed with everybody at that station. And, well, they did know what they're doing. Their whole purpose was to flip a TV station. That's what they did. And I'm sure it worked out for them. But in the process, everybody who worked there got shortchanged and blamed for problems that weren't their fault, really. Sorry to go off on some of that, but they're not anymore. They're not running that Telemundo station anymore. That's back to NBC Universal. So, and I've worked for NBC before, but again, it was not NBC directed. It was an affiliate station in Chico when I worked there. Actually, no, it was sorry, that wasn't NBC. That was CBS. So I worked for CBS, but again, that was an affiliate too. I did work for Fox for about 6 to 9 months when I lived in Sacramento, the local station there. That wasn't a terrible job, and it's different than, the Fox News that you hear about typically. All local news is different than national news when it comes to like opinions, but sometimes it can be worse depending on the people that are there. So yeah. What else did I do there? Yeah, I used the time wisely. It was kind of school. Telemundo was kind of school for me in the sense that I learned to do things on the job because I wanted to, and because the company didn't care, really. They just didn't really care. I mean, we went through, when I first started working there, we had one boss. She left, and they replaced her with some dude who, I mean, he worked for the company, but he didn't even live in the same state. And the boss that I'd had when I got hired was kind of irreplaceable because she pulled the weight of like 3 or 4 people, and then when she left, they didn't really replace those people. They just had one guy come in every once in a while and try to pretend like he knew what the hell he was doing, and it was like, no. Like, he came into there was a situation in my department at one point. This was before you started there, Mark. Like right before you started there. I think when you got the job there, we had just started to come out of this situation a bit. Where we would request, oh, hey, soccer or World Cup's coming up, and we have to cover World Cup for a month. And they would be like, okay, well, what do you need? And we're like, we might need an extra person or 2, or hey, how about a backup system so if this thing goes down, we still get paid and whatnot. Sorry, I'm totally going off on some like nonsense now, but this is my show. That's why it's I get to do this, okay? But yeah, they'd come in and say like, we'd asked to hire a person for like months. No word on any of that. So I put out a thing on social media because we got an okay to hire somebody, but they weren't actually putting out anything to hire people. And so I did it because it's my department and I had to like handle business when nobody else would. And so I put out, hey, we're looking for somebody, and somebody came in. It was a person right before you, Mark, if you're still here. Came in, and he was a friend of a friend. This is not on him at all. I mean, bringing in somebody who doesn't know anything about TV is always difficult, or can be. But like, there was an issue with one of the people where I had been asking for a long time about like, okay, so when do they need to start? What schedule do you want for them? And then they kept changing things around. So when I would communicate what the station wanted, it was always a thing. There was always a like, well, that's not how we do it. And I was like, this is what you told me. This is what you told him. This is what you're telling everybody. And now all of a sudden things are changing and you guys aren't talking to the head of your department, for example. So I got called in. They waited till this manager from out of town came in, and he called me into his office, and this other person on staff that had this issue with me because they thought I was being rude, and I was fed up because I wasn't getting any information from anybody, and I needed stuff done. I needed that person there, and I had been saying this. I had sent emails about this. I had done all of these things on the professional end that I was just kind of fed up, and I'm like, look, we're going to lose money here. Like, that's the one thing a business shouldn't be doing, is losing money, right? You're supposed to be making money. And I was like, we're going to end up losing money because you're basically asking me to run World Cup for a month. What do you want me to live here now? Like, I'm not doing that. That whole month I was doing my regular shift. So I'd come in at 2 in the afternoon and work till 11. And then they would ask me to come back at like 2 or 3 in the morning and work until 8 in the morning. So I was doing 2 shifts a day for like a month. And luckily we did get some people in there to cover stuff, but yeah, their whole well, this one management person that only came in every once in a while brought me into his office to be like, well, what's the problem? And he was staring me down like I was the problem, and I laid this shit all out on his desk for him, and I even shamed the person. I'm being a little harsh, but this person who'd complained about me was sitting there kind of like, oh, well, you're going to get it now. And then he asked me like, well, what's the problem? And I laid out this whole thing. And I was like, basically, you're not doing your job and she's not doing her job. And it's affecting my department. And now you guys are trying to reprimand me for it. And I had all the proof. I had everything I needed right there. And so the outcome of it was they just tried to punish me by taking tasks away. And I'm like, You're not punishing me. You're doing your job now, finally. Thank God. Sorry, that was a long explanation about a shitty business. So, again, I hope they're not running anything, because nobody needs to be working for dumb people like that. Especially when you work in TV, you work in communications. And the communications industry is probably the least communicative industry I've ever worked in. Nobody talks to each other. It's supposed to be, some of these stations think they have it all down, and everybody's working as part of a cog. But it's really like some of these stations, like, nobody knows what they're doing, and they're just all working in different ways around each other. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about the people I worked with day to day at that job. There's one or two people that I don't ever want to see in my life again. One of them was a former news director. I really have nothing to say to that person. The other person was in admin, and then the other people were the management that never came in, but once or twice a month. So that was my experience at Telemundo. Even though it was I had to leave for those kinds of reasons, not getting compensated not only what I'm worth, but what this job would have paid 10, 15 years ago. Like, this was a job that I know people who'd done that job for decades and had kids and, like, bought a house on that kind of salary. But Master Control it's all hubbed out of like one or two locations now for most places. And for those of you who don't know what Master Control is at a TV station, we run commercial breaks. We made sure the timing was right and things got on TV. So my main job when I first got hired originally was just make sure the commercial breaks run and we all get paid, because if commercial breaks don't run, you owe money back to the client. If it's the local car dealerships or McDonald's. Well, the McDonald's stuff is national typically, but there's local businesses that pay for time, and if that doesn't happen, then you owe them credit back or money back, depending on what they need. And so it's always frustrating when it was at times at Telemundo, and most of this was before Mark was there. So again, Mark, sorry for bringing all this stuff up. I'm glad. It seems like you're doing better, and I'm doing a little better myself too. I would like to be paid more, as we all would, but I'm working on growing my business here. So yeah, it can be difficult working for a company like that. And again, there's people I hope to never see again. Although there's people I haven't kept up with from Telemundo that I would love to see again. Hell, I would even love to have one or two of them on the show. One of our directors, Javier, he's a really cool dude. We got along really well. We were always talking about random stuff, and he did I think he did film school in Sacramento. And then his wife, it was like, did like costuming and set design and stuff like that. They're really great. I didn't get a chance to hang out with him as much as I would have liked to before I left. And then Axel is a cool dude. We always talked about like random music and stuff like that. And he's a guitar player. I haven't really kept up with those two dudes in a while, but hopefully they see this and they're like, "Oh, John, we want to come on your show." No, I should reach out to them at some point. I've been really bad in the last, well, not just the last couple years, but for a while, with being social. I do get busy at times, but I also have dealt with my own forms of anxiety and depression, and really trying to come out of that. I think one thing that didn't help was I got a job at a dispensary for a while, and I'm a cannabis user. I like to consume cannabis. I think it can be really healthy. But when I started working in the industry, it was super easy to get cannabis, and so it was always around, and it turned into those habits where it's like you wake up and then you start smoking or consuming somehow in one form or another. And I'm not saying that's bad for everybody, but it was really affecting my my anxieties and depressions for a while. And I still consume, but I've balanced it a little better. I actually don't usually smoke or consume because I eat gummies before bed. They help me sleep. And I don't usually consume before the show, before I do this show. There might be times you might see it, and it's and it'll probably be not see me smoking or anything, but you might think, oh man, Jon looks high. Well, I might be, and that's probably because I got a migraine before I started or something like that. If it's one of those, I'll try to be honest about it. Not try to hide it so much. I mean, sometimes you just don't need to say anything about it. Like, is Jon high? I don't know, man. I'm really hungry right now. No, cannabis is gonna be good. I mean, look, I worked in marketing for this dispensary too, and I had to do a bunch of informative, educational short content videos, and so I was doing things that were like explaining indica versus sativa versus hybrid and stuff like that. And in that research, we have an endocannabinoid system. All mammals on Earth have an endocannabinoid system, and it's not everybody needs cannabis. Sometimes you don't need to balance that, but sometimes people need certain things for sleep, for example, or CBD is really good. Look, if you do consume, and I don't know many people who do this anymore because most of my friends are above the age of 20. If you ever if you consume too much and you feel like too high, CBD brings you down. So if you have a pure CBD, not THC, like half and half or anything like that, but CBD will help you come down a little bit. But yeah, we all have an endocannabinoid system, and even some fish have it too, which makes me think maybe at one point in the history of humanity, there was underwater weed and fish were just eating it, and then the fish like walked out onto, or as Jason said earlier, wormed out of the ocean and I was like, you know what, we got to start growing this stuff up here too. No, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up now, but no, we all do really have an endocannabinoid system, and it can be a balance between your immune system and stuff like that. Jason's got a split for the kiddos party. Hit me up. Oh, word. Well, have a good night. And yeah, obviously the show will be back next week too. So I'll be here. Yeah, have a good time at your kid's party. And yeah, we'll hang out. We'll hang out either this weekend or sometime this next week. You know what? I'm also gonna split too. I think this is gonna be the end of my show. I just rambled about a lot of stuff today. Yeah, no problem. I did put an email list together to notify people when I go live. If you're interested in being on that list at all, Mark or anybody else listening right now, feel free to direct message me your email, and I'll put it on the list and make sure. Today was a couple minutes late because I was rushing to get stuff done, but I will try to get the link up like right at around 5, just so everybody gets a notification. So anyways, I'll be back Monday. I don't know what's going on next week yet. I don't know if I have guests or anything. I'm starting to feel a little better, so being around people might be okay. it's my energy level's mostly back. It's just clearing the phlegm out. So once that's all gone, then there'll be nothing inside me. Like my brain is just a ball of phlegm. So maybe I just won't exist after. I don't know. We'll see. I'll stop babbling. All right, guys. Have a good weekend. It's Friday. I'm listening to some new music. Check out the new Panda Bear stuff, the new Mars Volta stuff, any of the other stuff we've talked about this week. And I will probably, the one thing I will talk about for sure next week is Prey. And then also I just remembered Sandman dropped today as well too. There's so much stuff to get through. So I'll talk about some of that stuff next week. So anyways, you guys have a good weekend. Email me if you're interested about that, or direct message me if you're interested about that email list. Check out wilddinosaur.com for all my merch stuff. And there's a link in the description to donate to Planned Parenthood, because I think it's super important. It's a super important cause right now, and I really, really hope you guys consider supporting Planned Parenthood, because they have a lot of great health care for men and women, reproductive stuff, and more. And you want some free condoms? Go to Planned Parenthood. Anyways, I will see you guys Monday. Peace.